So, for most of my life, I've been faced with something that feels analogous to what some people see as panic attacks, but the word seems entirely wrong for it. When I think panic, I think fear, I think terror. That's not the emotion I feel. To me, it's usually more of a despair attack, is the word I would use for it. The net effects can be very, very similar. One of them is that I simply, avoid something completely, which that's something people who face panic attacks can often do. My wife was subject to them anytime she had to go out and face people. For me, it's not something that's so discernible. Like, it's not like, oh, I have a phobia about this or whatever. It's more like any kind of situation that breaks my patterns that I'm not really used to. Anything that requires an effort I'm not used to making. So, there's things like cleaning the house that no, not going to do. For a while, shopping sort of was affected this way. Doing homework was affected this way. Sometimes even at work, I would feel this coming on. And, it would paralyze me maybe for a day or two. But that's something I can recover from. Much more dangerous is when it's just for my own purpose or the purpose of my life. Work, I feel I have a duty to something else, to something external to me. My personal life, my own goals, decisions I have to make, whatever. From a rational point of view, I can look at them exactly the same. I have to decide A or B, I have to do something if I decide A. I have to do something else if I decide B. The decision itself, I might be able to make. So for example, I've made certain decisions like I guess I'll continue looking for work. Well, I've been kind of doing that. I guess I won't do it too hard because it's an avoidant reaction there. But when it came, one of the decisions was to register for unemployment. And when it came to that, first of all, it is complex in the sense that there are things I have to do that I didn't have to do the last time because I was applying it through a better state, not in. The state I was in was just as bad as this one for this. But, there are also new twists to it. Twists that I'm not sure what the answer is. So, like, they've kind of answered to me, hey, you can just come down to the office and deal with this. Which is basically I can't register for the particular identification. The people that run their identification check require you to have a phone or something else. And the something else is, some of them are like devices I would have to order that nobody fucking has, but which may be catching on in the future. And, I would gladly pay a couple of bucks for one of these things if it was standardized, but it's not. I tried to check, and there's different things for different places and stuff. But the particular, so they'll send you a text message to your phone. Now, I can set up a bullshit text account, like there's things that you can get a free phone number for text message receiving, but they expire. And I've always used them sort of as, okay, this is it for now. Now it's gone. Which is really not at all an addition of security, because the accounts that it's tied to don't have any additional security. I wipe it out every time I am done with the transaction that I'm doing. But some things don't allow that. Some things force you to always have a phone number that they can text to. Now, I'm not going to go into this too much, but honestly, the phone communications are not that hard to tap either, and I trust my email more than I do that a cell phone tower can't be compromised or that a cell phone signal can't be compromised. But that's neither here nor there. They don't. And it makes sense to have an out-of-band verification. I'm all for that. But this is not. And so the one other thing that I saw that I could do was they have an app that generates codes. I'm kind of like, well, that's kind of cool. It's like, a soft RSA or something. But it only runs on things that are phones. Worse than that, so I set it up. I set up an emulator, pulled their app down, and tried it, and it throws an immediate error that your phone does not support secure login. Well, of course it doesn't. It's an emulator. There's probably a way to hack it to make it claim that it's got secure login or something, but yeah, it's just fucking ridiculous. So there's a solution which I was thinking about and panicking about, or whatever it is I do, but unable to face, which was, okay, and I started thinking about this all over the weekend, and it threw me into losing yesterday as an entire day, but it was, all right, they said I can go to the office and handle this there. Well, this morning, as I was, not getting up, I've been up since, I don't know, around midnight. No, earlier than that, 10, somewhere around there, 9 or 10. And I only slept for like 3 or 4 hours. I started thinking about it, well, I don't really want to do it today, which I really should because it's a little cooler today than it's going to be tomorrow. But I had kind of convinced myself the temperature's not going to be that different, and I really can't face it. I'll look it up, I'll look at what I need to bring, and etc. Well, what I need to bring may be more complicated than I have, because they say you have to bring 2 forms of ID, and then they don't list all the forms which normally states would do. They don't list all the forms you would have, but this is the later thing. So what happened is I went down to my mailbox, had a whole bunch of mail because I haven't picked up the mail since Friday. So, and I had a package in there and stuff. So yeah, and I had 2 mails from the unemployment folk, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting to get actual, physical mail. And I opened one of them up, and it's nothing too important. I think has to do with getting Obamacare or whatever, which I'm not sure I want because I kind of don't use my insurance, and I'm planning on dying as soon as I possibly can. But hey, whatever. I think I got it for free when I was on last time. or very, very low price. So maybe it's worth it. But I mean, I would definitely get it if I was. But I also had a reason. I mean, I needed to put my wife on it and everything as well. But the other one listed the forms of ID that were acceptable. What they said is 2 forms of ID, such as a driver's license and a passport. Well, I have both. My passport is expired, I think. I don't remember how long they last. If I can find it. But such as is not good enough. So, maybe I can go online and find out what forms they'll accept, etc. Without dealing with that. I would need these either way, whether I was doing this through their, the people they contract through, or whether I go down to the office, assuming that the office would work. But this is the interesting thing. The letter that I got doesn't seem to imply that the office will ID me. It actually might mean that, they'll just set up like a video chat with the people who will or something like that, which I think I could do anyway. I'd just rather avoid it, but I think I'm going to have to do that no matter what. It wasn't clear, like, that was, and it still isn't, that that's available. So this is the kind of thing. They give me all kinds of, like, things that don't quite fit, and they don't say anything explicit. So if you don't follow their happy path, it's not clear that the path you're going to follow is an efficient one. Of course, how much does that matter? I walk downtown, I spend a couple hours, maybe I get a beer on the way home. That's a reason to do it tomorrow, because tomorrow's Taco Tuesday at the happy hour that I like. It's not as good a deal as it used to be. But yeah, I've talked to a couple of, this is going back to where I started, I've talked to a couple of people about what their panic attacks are. And because I try to figure out, is what I'm feeling a panic attack? Because it has a lot of the same outcomes. And, it's kind of like, no, they're actually afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm resigned to failure. Just unable. The feeling is not one of fear, and it's not like, and it's also not, it will be bad if I do it. It's clearly, it would be best if I do this, and there will be no negatives to me doing it. All the negatives are up front, way, way up front, like the decision to leave the house on almost every condition. I had one shopping trip back when I was here before, we're talking 12 years ago or so, that shocked the hell out of me, because I made it out the door, made it several blocks, and then the wave of, I can't go through with this one. But again, it wasn't like a panic, it was more like, some of it is like, I don't want to waste the effort, the time, whatever, on any of this. And to the extent of, like, I would rather die than deal with this. It would just be easier. Just let me fucking die. And that's actually my answer to almost everything, is just let me fucking die, without having to go through all the effort. Because again, that too is almost choked in the same way, where it's like, I just don't think that it's almost like there's this complete block to accomplishing it. It kind of reminds me of when I had an injury to my neck when I was doing. I was playing a patient for doctors to practice on, or doctoral, MD students to practice on. And one of them pressed too hard with the stethoscope at one point, and maybe had me turn and did it or something. And I could no longer turn my neck beyond like here. This side could work fine, this side could go to here. There was no pain or anything, but it was just impossible. You know, it's like, I don't know many things that are like this, but that's kind of how it feels. It feels like it's completely blocked. It's like trying to take a shit and being completely constipated. It's just, and then one of the effects is, because my mind is so tied up in that, and this came across in the game as I was videoing it, is I just become incredibly frustrated and irritable, and can't think straight about anything, when there's something like this on my mind. And yeah, it's just like the wiring all breaks, because things can't follow the patterns they're supposed to. And this is the thing, I mean, it's why, like, an autistic will just scream out and have a total meltdown or something, in some cases. And that doesn't tend to happen to me anymore. And I don't really remember back when I was incredibly violent. Like, I don't even recall that was linked to it. That was generally more regarding social frictions, and an inability to cope with and resolve them in any way, because there was no solution. People are teasing you, they're hitting you with shit, and it's like, well, can't tell, that's talent. Can't show any emotion, because that's the thing they want. And I mean, I would just eventually, I would be completely quiet, and then I would just lash out and attack. And then as I got older, it became more focused. Like, I remember at one time, people were throwing shit at me on the bus. Just sitting there, figuring they'll give up eventually. They don't give up. So I get up, turn around, start walking towards the back of the bus, start hearing some giggling. Look at the person who's laughing the most, and just kick them in the nuts. Turn around and go back. I mean, and it wasn't, and it was just the kind of thing. It's just like, okay, fine. Somebody has to pay, and whatever. Oh, I don't know. I really don't fucking know. None of it is, this is the thing, none of it's worth it, because life isn't fucking worth it. Life is not worth the misery that it puts on people, on me. It's like, that misery may be perfectly acceptable to some people. I know it's not. I know I'm not alone in this. I know my mother suffered from something similar, where it was like, she just avoided shit because whatever. But I don't know how much angst she went through from it. Like, I know afterwards, when the bad effects happened, she would regret or whatever, but there wasn't, like, I just don't feel like there was the same kind of balance between panic and inaction or whatever, just, I don't know. Anyway, felt I should express some of this while I'm feeling it strongly enough, because whatever, same reason as everything.